Welcome to the February newsletter. Everybody at the VMG and I hope you're okay and managing with the additional pressures our current situation has added to your already hectic and busy life. We thought we'd give Richard a break this time, so I'm afraid you've got me, Stuart Saunders, instead. So, I've been a member of the VMG, or VPMA as was, since 2007, and I was fortunate enough to join the board in 2016. Last year I took over from Rita Dingwall as the VMG representative on the RCVS Practice Standards Group, and I thought it might be of interest or useful if you found out what that means. So the Practice Standards Group, PSG, is a steering committee chaired by a representative of the Royal College, and it comprises of representatives from all the major veterinary and veterinary nursing organisations in the UK. Currently there are 13 people on the working group. Now the PSG is responsible for setting and reviewing the PSS standards, rules and assessment protocols. So the group feeds into the Royal College committee structure through the Standards Committee and then Council. We respond to updates to best practice feedback from assessments and consultations from each organisation's board and membership. The main focus of the group through 2019 and 2020 was a comprehensive review of standards set by Practice Standards, and then in 2020 we were obviously involved in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Hopefully, you'll have already seen an announcement from the Royal College that was made recently about practice standards, and it's the excellent news that RVNs are now able to become practice standard assessors. So when the assessor positions become available, our amazing nurses can bring their extensive knowledge into the process, and that adds another career path for our nurses, which I think is fantastic news. So I thought the best way to illustrate what we get involved in, including the overall direction of the scheme, would be to offer a précis of our last meeting. This took place a few weeks ago, so please keep in mind that I'm not able to cover everything because this newsletter is not the place to make primary announcements. That quite rightly comes from the Royal College first. So if we start with the practice standard membership figures. From the 20th of December 2020 there were 3,699 practices in the scheme, and that's about 67% of all eligible practices in the UK. Unsurprisingly, your membership figures have remained steady in the current circumstances. I can't think anyone would be surprised by that. So the next thing we look at is the most common action points that arise from assessments. And it's going to come as no surprise again that medication is the single biggest area. Now we review all of these action points because we want to make sure that the problems that practices are encountering are not those of language or the explanatory notes that we provide. So anyway, here's a quick list of the top ones. Temperature monitoring, the supply of veterinary products in appropriate containers, controlled drug recording, medical broach dates, SOPs for meds requiring special handling, diagnostic radiation risk assessments, infection control, so your washing, disinfecting and cleaning protocols, and the practice team modules on risk assessments, particularly those to do with electrical safety. Now, obviously during lockdown there have been no face-to-face assessments, and this is going to continue for the time being. A remote assessment format has been in place since October 2020, and that's allowed practice standards to continue to assess medicines in practices and to ensure that the PSS standards are being maintained. This is in line with the other regulators that have also moved to remote assessments during the pandemic. Now, a remote assessment's far less intrusive and disruptive to your team than you think. You'll have someone walking around your practice, video streaming to the assessor via a mobile or a tablet, and none of this would be possible if it wasn't for practice standard system standing. The ability to upload all your documents so well in advance is much, much better than when I did my first inspection back in 2008, where I spent the best part of the day sitting in a room with the assessor just ticking boxes and having dozens of lever arch files piled up on the edge of my desk. So I know that you've been facing some difficult times in your practices, and it's understandable that your practice standards would not be high on your list of priorities. However, please don't ignore the assessment if it's due. There are some essential standards, particularly around medicines, that still need to be met and assessed. So the remote assessment also allows your practice to retain its accreditation for the usual 4-year period, as long as no significant risks are being identified. So book in your remote assessments when contacting the PSS. I promise you won't regret it. Now, unfortunately, award assessments continue to be suspended. And that's because practices have to be operating as business as usual, which clearly they're not at the moment, and so therefore they can't be assessed. But this is going to be reviewed again at April at the latest, so look out for a further announcement about that if you want to apply for the awards, and I recommend that you do. They're brilliant for team building. Then we had a fantastic discussion about sustainability in practice. Sustainability is clearly one of the hottest topics in the vet world right now. And we're witnessing a massive increase in practices looking to achieve the Investors in Environment accreditation. So if you have a look online at the website, www.iie.uk.com, sustainability is something that PSG will be looking at in more detail in future meetings. Recommendations will come in from the RCVS Environment and Sustainability Working Party, and then we can work out how practice standards could be utilised to promote sustainability within the profession. But in the meantime, I don't think it would do your practice any harm at all to get ahead of the game on this one. So go and have a look at the IIE accreditation, or have a look at Vet Sustain for some CPD for you and your team. So that's it really. I hope you found it interesting. And I have to say it's been an absolute privilege to be able to represent you at these meetings. They have a real impact on us and our industry, so that's it really. So stay warm, stay safe, and just remember, look after yourself as well as looking after your team. Thanks very much. Bye.